Okay, so we are live. It is 5:20, 2023 on a Saturday morning at 1:40. And we're going to be going over the third episode of the Maura Murray case, along with one of the other victims for suspected serial killer of Betzaida, Montalvo. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, but we'll be going over that. And hopefully, if we have time, which we should, because it's only 1:40, we'll do a weekly recap. So there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my intro, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the video ready to go. I just wanted to do the last part of this Mara Murray interview on Fox News. So let's go here. So basically, if you need to get caught up on this case here, you can go and watch episode 1 and 2. But just a quick recap of this case here with Maura Murray. She went missing about February 9th, 2004, up here in New Hampshire in Haverhill, and nobody's seen her since. So this is an interview that was done about a month ago with her sister Julie, who's basically the spokesperson for the family. So we'll start that now. Some sound.
It would have no relevance, but she'd send it to me just to make me laugh. So she was kind of the jokester, being the youngest until my little brother Curtis came along. She was the one to make everybody laugh. Yeah.
So this is Julie Murray to the right and the interviewer to the left. And there you go.
Sometimes what is so hard for families is not the initial trauma, but the ripple effect. And when it goes on for so long, it can be catastrophic in its own right. How has your family survived itself for the last almost 20 years?
Well, this definitely brought us together. Maura's disappearance forced us to work together, work through disagreements that we had. And in my family, the number one goal and the number one objective is to find Maura. But sometimes we don't agree on how to get there and what course of action we should take. But knowing that Maura is the North Star has always allowed us to disagree, but also come back together for the greater good, which is to do the best for Maura and figure out what's happened to her. Now, I will say that, my siblings have, some of them haven't had the best coping skills, and people going through this type of grief sometimes don't pick up the healthiest habits. And this type of grief, this unresolved loss, this is hard stuff. And sometimes you feel really alone. And then on top of being an introvert already, we're not the type of people that want to go sit there and have a social setting where we're going to talk about our feelings like that. A lot of times people in my situation isolate and just kind of stew in the what if I should have done this and the blaming game. And everyone in my family has done that. But at the end of the day, we've all come together and known, even though we disagree on paths, we all want the same outcome.
So I'm going to bring up this map here because I'm going to be where am I? Going over the they had a search a while back. But this map will basically show it all. So basically here's the road that she took, Route 112. This is the corner here by Mountain Lakes. So she basically crashed here, and I got this map pulled up because later we'll be going over the search that they did here, and basically 4 miles down the road not too long ago. So we'll go back to the interview, and I'll go back to my crossword.
So I feel really supported, and I feel like, especially my brothers, they're great. My sister Kathleen, she passed away now, but we're still going strong.
Another thing that's so hard, I think, about family tragedies is that since everyone is going through that same tragedy, at one time, everyone is the best support and source of empathy, and yet has zero bandwidth because they're grieving themselves and processing and coping themselves. So it's a very wrought thin bandwidth that you're dealing with, and there's a really finite amount, and yet it's the closed universe that you are operating in. So it's a very unique set of circumstances, and my heart goes out to you all. To some X's and O's for a moment. Have you had the benefit of any federal resources at any time?
Early on in the investigation, the FBI was involved a little bit. We know that they helped. So let me back up. So my family has always begged for the FBI because Maura was a Massachusetts resident. She was at UMass. She certainly crossed state lines. She was in Vermont and then in New Hampshire. So our argument was, hey, the FBI needs to be involved because this is multi-state. But New Hampshire State Police said, nope, the local police and the state police have to ask for their assistance. And other than asking them to help with some of the search and investigation down at UMass, that was kind of the only amount that the FBI was involved initially. Now, within the last 2 years, Maura has been entered into the VICAP program, which is the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, which is an FBI database. And so that was huge for us because we're like, finally, we need these resources that the FBI has because the state police, they haven't solved it yet. It's 19 years. We need to get going.
Okay, so let's. What I hate about StreamYard is you gotta Stop screen, present screen, share screen. So she mentioned VICAP, which is very important. And I want to read this. This is coming from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group, National Center of the Analysis of Violent Crimes, Violent Crime Apprehension Program, facilitates communication and coordination between law enforcement agencies and investigate, track, and apprehend violent serial offenders. So basically, years ago, it was really hard to get information from one state to another state to another state. That's why people, whenever they committed a crime, they just went to a different state. Now with computers, computer technology and stuff, they can pretty much put everything in a computer and be able to track down these guys from different states and get it all into one system here. So that's that. So it's important in this case here because anybody that, if there's any evidence out there, it can be
invited to take a look at the case that I'm aware.
Given that, or despite that, do you feel that we talked before about the physical searches and that you articulated there's always more to do? Even this spring, you have that lined up because it's seasonal affecting there in New Hampshire, given the snow and whatnot. Do you feel that resources have been exhausted in the way of records and I guess it would be, intra and inter-jurisdictional searches, but sex offender registries and knowing door to door who existed, who had priors with similar MOs. Do you feel that has been exhausted in terms of the neighboring community around that situs?
No, because here I am and my family, we're looking at what is public and what has been shared with us. And there's certain little things that I'm investigating on my own, and I'm reaching out to people who I think might know something, and I'm getting feedback like no one's ever talked to me before. And this happened last month where I'm talking to someone that should have been interviewed that was not. So that's super frustrating, one, but it means that there's more work to be done. And I feel like the burden's on the family. We need to do that work, package it up, and give it to.
Unlike popular opinion, when it comes to these investigations, they don't usually tell the family much. And I know there's rumor out there that the family gets told a lot of stuff. The family doesn't. They're privy to some information, but and it's really tough because they don't really tell the family a whole lot when it comes to the investigation side of things. So that's got to be frustrating because if you're a family going through this, you want information, but sometimes it's something that they can't either they even either can't give you, or two, they just don't have any. So
the overworked cold case unit and say, here's what I found, do something with it. So no, I think this case is solvable. I think there's more work to do, and I think the dots just need to be connected. I think we're dancing around some of the answers, but we're just not connecting them because we don't have all the information.
Can you share the type of, you said, so you spoke with someone who said, you're the first one that's talked to me, so that person should have been talked to from the get-go. Can you share why? Why should that person have been spoken to? Is it because where they live, because of their criminal history, because of where they were that night?
Well, it's because their phone number was found inside Maura's car. Yeah. So police knew about that the second day. And when I contacted that person last month, however many, maybe 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, they said no one had ever mentioned that their number was found inside a missing woman's car. And that blew me away.
That's so bizarre because I did, that is strange. I actually wrote that down when we did episode number 1, that it was Weird how they didn't know who she talked to that day through the cell phone records and stuff like that. So the fact that there was a phone number found in the car, that's but again, if there's no cell phone service up there, what's the sense of that? But at the same time, New Hampshire is really spotty when it comes to cell phone service, especially back then. You could be in a situation where you have absolutely no cell phone, but yet you can text to somebody. It used to be weird because they used to have roaming and all those other different things. So who knows?
I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. Nobody called the number that was in Maura's car. So it's just little things like that. It's like, what if I was just sitting back waiting on the investigators to investigate? What you would assume something like that would be blatantly obvious. Of course you're going to call that number and say, why is your number in this missing woman's car? Who are you? What connection do you have? Do you know anything? And things like that weren't done. So it just proves to me that it's on my family to do this. And if we don't stop doing these type of things and making these calls and trying to put these pieces together, no one's going to do it. And that's incredibly frustrating.
Can you share who that person was and what their number was doing in the car? And at a minimum, the format that their number was in the car? Was it on a piece of paper? Was it as part of a card? What can you share about that more?
Yeah, I'm not going to share the name of the person or any of that because the online trolls will do some sort of witch hunt. And
I'm sure they already have.
But the right people have the information now that I have provided it to them. But it was on a piece of paper and it was handwritten. There was a name and a number handwritten by Maura.
Can you share whether that person was male or female?
The person I talked to was male, but the number was an old number from that person's family.
So I've got how I try to do things is I put percentages on situations. So I'm at this point trying to formulate a percentage value on what could have happened. But I do know that people just don't vanish into thin air. People just don't get out of their car and all of a sudden, poof, they're gone. It just doesn't happen that way. So there's a few things that could have happened, a few things that couldn't have happened, and a few things that probably didn't happen. So, but when it comes to this long of an investigation, at this point, it's usually very, very simple. Going back to the beginning, it's nothing. It's not something extraordinary you're going to find out. It's usually something that, oh yeah, that's right.
Can you share what area code the number was?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it was from where we lived in Massachusetts.
Got it.
So there's that connection there. And the other connection that I was able to make was that family owned a rental unit up at Loon Mountain, which was 25 miles from where Maura's car was found in the direction that she was headed. So here's a family that comes from our small little area in Massachusetts with rental property in Loon Mountain, where Maura was inquiring, around the same area where Maura was inquiring about places to stay. Which, oh, by the way, the other person that Maura called in Bartlett for a rental unit, that woman was never contacted by law enforcement either. My family contacted that person. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What would be the greatest resource that you would request right now? Would it be for the Fed to come in? Would it be for more awareness so that individuals can come forward that might not be aware? Is it money to fund those the underfunded, overworked cold case unit, what is the single greatest resource that you would want right now?
My wish is that the FBI would take over because of the crossing of state lines. But in reality, the best thing that I can ask for at this point, 19 years later, is that people continue to talk about my sister. People continue to have that conversation, keeping Maura centered, because a lot of these conversations that people have are talking about things on the periphery, people on the periphery, you know, and they lose focus, and
I'm
Maura
gonna
just
go
becomes a
back.
footnote in her own story, inside a missing woman's car. And that blew me away. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. Nobody called the number that was in Maura's car. So it's just little things like that. It's like, what if I was just sitting back waiting on the investigators to investigate? What you would assume something like that would be blatantly obvious. Of course you're going to call that number and say, why is your number in this missing woman's car? Who are you? What connection do you have? Do you know anything? And things like that weren't done. So it just proves to me that it's on my family to do this. And if we don't stop doing these type of things and making these calls and trying to put these pieces together, no one's going to do it. And that's incredibly frustrating.
Can you share who that person was and what their number was doing in the car? And at a minimum, the format that their number was in the car? Was it on a piece of paper? Was it as part of a card? What can you share about that more?
Yeah, I'm not going to share the name of the person or any of that, because the online trolls will do some sort of witch hunt, and I don't want that.
So that's kind of interesting that they found a phone number. Because there's a reason why, like I said, there's a reason why she got off the highway there. But I have a couple of issues with this case because
but the right people have the information now, that I have provided it to them. But it was on a piece of paper, and it was handwritten. There was a name and a number handwritten by Maura. My wish is that the FBI would take over because of the crossing of state lines. But in reality, the best thing that I can ask for at this point, 19 years later, is that people continue to talk about my sister. People continue to have that conversation, keeping Maura centered, because a lot of these conversations that people have are talking about things on the periphery, people on the periphery, you know, and they lose focus, and Maura just becomes a footnote in her own story. She's not even the main topic of conversation. And that's something that the true crime industry needs to get better at, is centering the victim. Is this information that we're discussing victim centered? If it's not, then what are we doing? Why are we talking about this? Is it just entertaining you? Is that why we're having these conversations? And that happens a lot in my sister's case, where it seems like a hobby for some people just to entertain themselves with, when, this is my sister. She was a human. She's been missing for 19 years. I'm deeply hurt every morning when I wake up, when she's not there and she's not telling me jokes to laugh at, and people lose sight of that. She's just become a character and not even the focal point of the story. That's very hurtful for families like mine.
One of my sister's names is Julie. So this is
one of these things I'll never do is go on strange conspiracy, alien abduction type theories. I'm going to try to stick with the amount of facts that we have that are out there, and then that's going to do it. I'm not going to try to solve anything because I can't. I'm not an investigator. I have no background in it, but try to give my 2 cents. That's all.
I just and the having the relationship that's rooted in such clear love and laughter. And I had the honor of watching a lot of your videos and reading your writing, like I've mentioned during our conversation. I just want you to know that I think you do an incredible job of describing Maura as this amazing, beautiful, inside and out, one of a kind, unique soul that that touched everyone's lives that she came in contact with. And it is, your efforts have not gone unnoticed or unsuccessful, that you have centered her, and that her memory is, from the time before she went missing, is so vibrant and strong and impactful and clear. And that's a beautiful thing to witness just as an observer. And I'm grateful to you for that. I can't imagine what those mornings are like every morning, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I thank you. Things like this are helpful. We're talking about facts. We're talking about Mara, and she's not a footnote in this particular, session here. And so I thank you for that. And um, you know, that's what cold cases need, is just the awareness. And I I'm just hopeful that someone out there might hear this and might say, "Oh, I remember that." And they might think it's insignificant, but if we get a couple of pieces, we could put this mystery together. And Maura deserves that. Maura deserves better than what she's been given, in the media and online. Because she would never, ever, she would be mortified if she read any of the stuff that's written about her. Her eating disorder is just flippantly talked about online by strangers. Her sexual history is just talked about online. A 21-year-old woman just talked about like it's just like they're eating popcorn. It's disgusting.
When I think of her,
It's absolutely horrible. It's victim blaming at the worst possible. I'm never going to judge anybody on these things unless they're, um, you know, the suspects. And even then, you can't judge people. When judge people, look in the mirror.
um, I think of how you shared how she broke every record in her high school, and how I think of her dimples and her huge smile. That's a very, it's such a strong visual of someone that clearly exuded this spark and was just such a gifted person in so many ways. And the way that you describe the family dynamic, which is so familiar, and I'm sure to so many people, but we all have, the best among us, and she certainly sounds like that. The things that I keep thinking about for me in terms of, given the cold case nature, so setting aside for the moment the lack of resources and what we've talked about, which is the jurisdictional issues and whatnot, I think about the change of landscape over 20 years, and I think about the notion of travel. And those are the two things that concern me the most. And what I mean by that is that, in 19 years, a local a situs can change significantly and dramatically, sometimes for the better. So there have been many cases where clearing of brush, clearing of trees, some type of erosion, etc., has led to a discovery that has brought closure to a family. Or the opposite, where things get buried or covered, and it makes it, and obfuscates the any type of helpful discovery. And then on the travel notion, I think about being alongside of a highway, clearly, and how fast miles can be achieved, and how what
How
seems
long is
like
this
a
question going to
local
be?
issue, as underscored and emphasized there by local and state police, or local and originally, and then it even took a while to get to the state level, could quite quickly have become an interstate, not because she was from a different state, but because she was taken to a different state. And the size of those tiny states up there in the Northeast amplifies that
Well,
probability,
tiny.
as well as that concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, those are great points, and not many people talk about that, but that is very possible, because she was gone so quickly. We have to assume that she got into a vehicle, and she went somewhere. So where did she go?
Talk about VICAP and the strength of recent legislation that occurred under the prior administration was essentially requiring and enforcing communication between state and federal agencies for missing and endangered persons, emphasis on women, right? So part of the difficulty up until 2 years ago, and certainly in 2004, is the lack of communication, even between counties sometimes and within the same state. So my point about the travel element is it's just further complicated by traveling through multiple jurisdictions, multiple layers of jurisdictions by virtue of crossing an intersection. All of a sudden, that's off a team's radar. All of a sudden, that means communication isn't required. It means that it just makes it so much harder. So I hope I'm not, I don't mean to sound negative. I just to sound logistical in the challenges that potentially that we're facing here, and also why this national attention is so important for this case, because it's not about exclusively who was there that night and who existed in that area. That's extremely important. Equally important is that concept of these tributaries that run all around the country and how easy it is to get anywhere quickly. And therefore, that someone who knows something is potentially 10 states west or what.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to VICAP. We could not understand why Maura wasn't entered into VICAP sooner. We're very thankful that she's in there now, but just like you said, now different jurisdictions can have a repository of information to look at different data points. Whereas before, like you said, it was all stovepiped, and certain jurisdictions would never have access to that information or even know about it. And so now we've got more inside the VICAP system where people can share information right online within the database, and that's another positive step. And I'm thankful that the investigators did it. You know, I don't know why it took so long, but she's in there now, and so we're one step closer to maybe solving this.
And to be clear for listeners too, that includes not only the facts of that evening and her disappearance and immutable characters.
Never, ever, ever get in a car. It's just, my only advice is even if you're stranded, never ever get in somebody's car because you never know who that person is.
About herself, and then also her description, but it's also MOs and facts of arrestees and convicted, and well, depending on some arrests go in there and some don't, depending on the law. But so there's a whole host of information to be gleaned, is my point. So you can insert as a fact parameter things like I didn't want to say the words because I don't want to oxygen to conspiracy theories, but the elements that were at play that evening, you can put that in and you can see what similar arrests or convictions have occurred and who is where that had a similar potential MO, the similar pattern of behavior that did X, Y, and Z each time with a woman or whatever. That's something to search for too, and that's really important because sometimes all you have are these elements, which here, to the point about the mystery, you don't know what you don't know, but you have what you do. And what you have is enough. It should be enough. To your point. It should be enough.
And also, they have Mars DNA. And so if there's a Jane Doe somewhere, now that she's in VICAP, they can cross-reference that or at least get a point of contact to contact somebody at the New Hampshire State Police who will have access to the DNA. But yeah, they have it. They've got her dental records. That's all data points that could help solve this. That is now shareable and can be cross-referenced. So it's huge.
Julie, what message do you have for listeners right now? What is the one takeaway you want them to hold?
I just want people to take pause when they're consuming true crime stories because these are real people. My sister was a real person. I'm a real person. We're a real family. And a lot of times people lose sight of that. And I think as the true crime industry gets better, and holds each other more accountable, both consumers and creators, um, it's going to be better for everyone, and it's not going to be as painful as it has been for my family. My family has been drugged through the dirt over the past 19 years. um, every possible scenario, from we're hiding Maura to we don't want to find her to we're at fault for her disappearance, has been said about my family. And I don't want other families to have to go through what we've been through. So my guiding principle is engage with empathy. So when you're consuming, when you're creating content, do it with empathy, because these aren't characters, these are real people. And things that you say and accusations you make and insinuations you make hurt real people.
Will you please share?
What happens is, this is what happens is people get into true crime. They watch all of these forensic files, cold case, wacky lifetime things, and they hear like one or two episodes where they're going to blame the family, and then that's all they know. No one's ever going to convince them that it's not family. um, and I'm not saying that it's never family, but I'm not going to blame family members until I have absolute proof that it's the family that did it. And even then, we'll wait to get through a trial, because blaming the family is the last thing you want to do in cases like this. They're the ones that are grieving.
Your website and how anyone can get a hold of you if they do have credible tips or information.
Absolutely. I tell people with credible tips or information to go directly to the cold case unit. There's a phone number that's on my website. If sometimes I get people that are leery of law enforcement, they can certainly come to me and I will filter that to the right sources. But the website is mauramurraymissing.org, and the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit phone number is on there. There's also an email that you can reach me directly. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, and I am active on TikTok, as you know. It kills me to do these TikToks, but it's been helping because I'm reaching a whole new audience. So
That's the most important thing, is getting that information out there. So,
mhm.
and that's, guys, for the
She got back in touch with me, which is pretty cool, because I asked a question and she actually answered me back. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. You can tell that she wants to get this thing solved.
those of you who are listening, MAURA missing MISSING.org. Julie,
Let's do that again.
Right
Since I talked.
sources. But the website is mauramurraymissing.org, and the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit phone number is on there. There's also an email that you can reach me directly. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, and I am active on TikTok, as you know. It kills me to do these TikToks, but it's been helping because I'm reaching a whole new audience. So
that's the most important thing, is getting that information out there. So,
mhm.
and that's, guys, for those of you who are listening, MAURA missing MISSING.org. Julie, I just pray that you have closure so soon, and that you have answers soon, and that you have peace and comfort in the interim. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing your story today,
All
for
right,
sharing
so
this
yeah,
intimate.
perfect. Let's stop the kumbaya stuff, and so that's that. That's the interview there. Okay, forgot this. What am I going to do now? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to go take a break, and I'll come back. We'll play another couple of videos with this here, and I want to play the what I want to do is play the they went and they did a search, ground search off Route 112. I think that was a few months back. It's actually last year, so July 13th. So I want to play that because I remember them talking about that. So give me a couple minutes. I'll be right back. Take a break, and we'll go over that. All right. Now, what I want to do too is thank the girls at Dunkin' Donuts tonight for making great coffees. They're the only reason I can do this late at night is the coffee. The iced coffees are great. All right, so let's go here to. This is basically. This, how am I? I'm gonna shut this off. I like doing these late at night because I work during the night. I usually work at night, and Friday night's my night off, so everybody's sleeping, so I can be as loud as I want down here. So let's go here. So this was done. Ground search was underway Wednesday in connection with the 2004 disappearance of a Massachusetts college student. Officials with the New Hampshire Attorney General office announced. This was last year, I think. So let's watch this here.
Every business owner has.
This is simply going back and looking at some areas that have already been searched before. This is something we do in a lot of our cases.
Attorney Strelzin says they typically don't notify the public, but in this case, the search was so large it would raise public curiosity or alarm. So a release went out. The family was notified first.
I'm just so happy. I mean, I'm nervous, but this is big news for the investigation.
The teams walked into the woods in a line, fanning out, poking into the brush. Dogs were used in this search operation as well.
The goal is to cover ground that had been previously been covered, but to do a more extensive search. Obviously, the hope with any of these searches is to find any evidence that might be relevant to this case.
Officials say there is no new information that prompts.
This is WMUR. This is local. Well, not local. It's local to this area here. Vermont covers a lot of
The operation.
part of the state.
Maura's family says they are guarded but optimistic. Fred Murray has been unrelenting in his effort to keep this investigation active.
He's hopeful. I mean, this is all that a family like mine could ask for, that the investigative team.
So they're searching. I'm assuming they're searching. Let's see here. In Landolph and Easton. So let me whoops. Let's go back up. So they're basically searching in this area here along the road into Easton. So again, here's the corner where she went off the road and hit the tree here. Now I have a difference in opinion because from what I saw, and I'll show it to you again, but I don't know if she was going east or west. But this is the area that they did their search last year. So.
Is investigating. Our biggest fear is that Maura becomes a file on a cabinet, and the fact that they're out there on the ground, boots on the ground, doing the search, just brings a huge smile to my face. And I don't care if my dad's not smiling. I'm going to make him smile today.
The search for Maura Murray has garnered international attention for nearly 2 decades. Tonight, Julie Murray and her father, Fred, say they're hopeful that this might finally bring this case to a resolution. In Woodstock, Amy Cavino, WMUR News 9.
And back in January, the FBI created a violent criminal apprehension profile for the Maura Murray case. The profile is designed to help multiple jurisdictions and agencies share information in the investigation. If you have any information about the case, you are asked to contact the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit. You'll find a link on our website and mobile app.
All right, so that's that. Give me a minute. I'm gonna try to. Okay, so here's the road. There's 112. This is a corner here. So it's a pretty, sharp corner here. And I believe this is going east. And this is going west. So we get a better one here. Hello. Okay. Okay, so this is the corner of the ribbons right there. So this is the corner. That's the road. But what I wanted to do is get rid of that. Try this here. I freaking hate this thing. I don't know where I am. Give me a second. I'm trying to figure this out again. I had it perfect last week. It's the same thing. Whoops. I did the same thing again. All right, so I'll give myself another minute or two to find this, and then okay, so we have found this here. Okay, so we're back. I found it. Almost there. Okay, we're here. So this is the corner here. So this is going west. This is going east. So that's the corner. That's the tree right there. So picture this not as green. Snowbanks possibly as high as this here. So you're coming around this corner here. And it tells of her car in the eastbound lane pointing west. So she would be here, pointing to where that arrow is. So eastbound lane pointing west. I don't know how that's possible. I just don't know how that's possible. If she's going east, she's coming around the corner this way. Sorry if I'm making people dizzy. Nobody's watching anyways. So there we go. So here's the corner. She gets on some ice, unless she was kind of on this side. I mean, it is possible. If she hugged at this side of the road, maybe she hit a snowbank this way here and hit that. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible, I guess. But it just seems more likely if she was going west and hit the tree. Or maybe she got off the highway here, trying to find some gas or something. Like I said, I got to go up there and so they were searching this way down this road, 4 miles that way. So I just think it's hard for me to believe that she actually walked into the woods, because this is, it's snowbanks here. So it's not like you can just drunkenly walk into the snow here. There's snowbanks here. It's kind of hard for me to believe that she just walked into the woods. But, like I said, anything's possible. All right, so that's that. So let's go here to this again. Okay, so here's the these are the victims here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last week we covered Wendy Morello. She was found in York, Maine, and this week we're going to be going into Betzaida, Montalvo. And if you look at all these people here, they all kind of have the similar look to them. And I found out about these victims here because of the case that I'm actually following, which is Mindy West and Rosalie Miller. Same type of MO, same type of victim. The difference is when Mindy West was found in Manchester, New Hampshire, and Rosalie Miller a year before her found in Auburn, New Hampshire, which is basically the same area. So that's why I got involved in this here, because New Hampshire police actually went down to Worcester to talk to Worcester police in 2008, I think, about these cases here. So we're going to go into that. So let's do that. All right, so this is okay, no, this is the wrong one. So let's okay, so I got it now. We'll do Anita next week, I guess. So okay, so this is the one I wanted to cover here. This is Betzaida, Montalvo. So this was updated. This is from Seacoast today. It was published back in March of 2004, but updated January 13th, 2011. So this is right around the time when they might have suspected that that guy had something to do with all of these. So this name you're going to remember here. So her remains were found, first found and the last identified. So she was the first one found and the last one to be identified. And now that investigators have come up with Jane Doe's #1's real name, they are even more convinced that they have a serial killer on their hands. I hate these ads. Betzaida Montalvo of Worcester was last seen by a male friend in April 2003. Hers were the first of 3 sets of female remains discovered in the woods off of Interstate 495. But while the other 2 women proved easier to identify, it took several months before investigators were able to identify Montalvo using dental records. It's awful. District Attorney Martha Coakley, that's why I said you'd remember that name, said yesterday that Montalvo was roughly the same age, height, and physical build of the 2 other victims. She was 29 when she disappeared and would have celebrated her 30th birthday on March 14th. So she was 29. All three were petite Hispanic women from Worcester with a history of drug use and sex worker. During a news conference at the Marlborough Police Station, Coakley displayed photos of the three women to illustrate their similarities. So the likelihood that all three were killed by the same person is medium to high. No suspects. So no weapon, no cause of death. When asked whether they believe there were other victims of the same killer, the DA said the unfortunate answer is there may be others. Whether we'll ever find them or not is hard to know. Fantastic. Hillside School in Marlborough. So she was found boarding school. Well, I don't know if it's a boarding school. I don't think it's that one. It says Hillside School, so campus. I don't want driving directions. I hate this. All right, so we'll stop this here. So I'm assuming this is where she was found here, off the campus here. It's a boarding school. I can get rid of that. I'm trying to get rid of some of my screens here because so she was found in Marlborough. The one we did last week was found way up in York, Maine, but she was from Hudson, I think. No, I think she was from Worcester. Well, she was believed to be picked up. Yeah, she was Worcester, Massachusetts. Okay, so there you go. It's all the same area here. So that's where she was found. Um, Wendy Morello was found all the way up in Maine, right there. So it's quite the distance. So this whole area here, it's hard to travel during the day, that's for sure, because there's a lot of traffic. But you know, it's easy for people to get places, especially some sort of a killer. So it's just really strange. Let me see if I can find. So where did I leave off here? Hold on a second. Montalvo was first of two women whose bodies were found last September on the sprawling wooded campus of the Hillside School in Marlborough. The mother of three, she was wearing a gold bracelet with the words "No, Mom," when her body was buried in a shallow grave. Several days after her body was discovered by students and teachers clearing a bike path, investigators found the remains of Carmen Rudy, 29, who had disappeared a year earlier. So they were both found in the same spot. Then in early March, a contract worker in a wooded area of adjacent town of Hudson, found the body of 33-year-old Daniela Torres. Rudy and Torres had been treated at the same drug treatment center in Worcester, though it was unclear if they knew each other. Police are investigating whether Montalvo also attended the rehab program. So I don't know if they... It is our understanding that her lifestyle in terms of drug use and on the streets was similar to the other two victims. All three had run-ins with the law. Montalvo, also known as Maritella Burgos, served time at the state prison in Framingham for minor drug offenses and was released in December 2002. But Rudy and Torres were identified days of their bodies being discovered, while Montalvo's identity eluded police for months. So this is old news from the other news. So I did that already. So we got the same yeah, that's the same thing. So this guy was definitely considered a suspect, there's no doubt. So that's that. So that's her story. So that's victim number 2 that we did. She's actually victim number 1, and Wendy And the one we did last week is victim number 4. So let me share that again. So we have this one, victim number 4, we did last week. She's found in York, Maine. She's probably the furthest away, although some would say Rutland is. Rutland is definitely a drug town. There's no doubt. Always has been. I used to go up there all the time. We used to go up there for dope. She was found. So we just did with victim 1, Betzaida, Montalvo. She was found a year before Wendy Morello. So next week we'll probably do Daniela Torres because she was found the next town over. There's not a lot, because of these people being sometimes not cared about as much as other people because of their, their lifestyle, but, still doesn't mean that they don't matter. So let me go here to So again, if you haven't seen some of my videos before, the reason why I got into these cases here is because of this person here, Mindy West. So very similar MOs. She was a transient at the time. I knew her. I lived right down the street from her in Londonderry. And she was a very smart kid. She just got, caught up in the wrong crowd down in Manchester, and she got into drugs and SWing, and she was found strangled in Manchester. So I've been following this case here, but I know that they went down there and talked to Worcester police about maybe her and Rosalie Miller, which is the other one I stumbled upon in Auburn. They went down there and talked to them about maybe these being linked up with the other ones, because it's not that far, it really isn't. And these two were before the other ones, but you never know. So that's my problem. That's what I'm looking into. And if you look at the Maura Murray case, that's 2004. So that's right in. Not saying that had anything to do with it, but that's right in the time window here. And it just seems like everything started to stop after he got arrested and jailed. So it's possible. So that's what I'm looking into. All right. So what we're going to do now is go over cases for the week. So I can get rid of, I have way too many screens open. So I'm going to take another little break, and then we're going to go to some of the cases for this week. Recap, starting off with Idaho, and then moving off to some other ones. So I will be right back. If you're hearing a cat, that's my cat. Bucko. Be right back. Without a smoke. So let's watch this. For a couple minutes. Well, I pick up some video.
Really low.
You
This is
rather,
my buddy.
rather
Just so people
so
understand how
I'll play
low
that.
this is, count to 10.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, that's really low.
Yeah.
For sure. Low volume.
So what you doing here? You messing around?
What's going on with my pedal board?
Yeah.
Well, what I have is I have two 10Ns running. This one and the one up there. The camera probably can't see that one up there, but they're going through this cabinet and this cabinet, which are very, 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 very broken in cabs that are mine. It's very hard to get two cabs broken in that much. Okay. But eventually they do, you know. They get that low volume thrust. Now what I got going on is I got one amp completely dry with just the gain master over here, and this amp has a very light delay on it. So so I just effectively shut them both off. My lights aren't on. Okay, so and this is the amp with the delay. It's both of them.
My cousin. All right.
Yeah. Nice.
So what are you doing with the gain master there?
Well, the gain master is getting me here. Because see, if I shut this,
All right. So we're gonna go to Court TV. This was done 10 hours ago. This is about the Moscow, Idaho murder victims. Brian Koberger was indicted by grand jury, and hopefully they're going to tell us about this. All right, let's Where am I? Right here. All right, let's go.
Another mass shooting. Turned out it wasn't. There were 4 victims, but it wasn't a shooting. And the more we started to dig into the facts and get more information from Idaho, the first question I think I had and a lot of people had was, well, okay, it wasn't a mass shooting. How do 4 people get murdered? How did they not get out? How many people were responsible for this? How did it happen? And then when we learned a little bit more about the timing, it's the middle of the night, some of it started to make some sense, that people are sleeping and, you know, someone can sneak in and it can happen. Then when we thought again, 4 victims, why? Why this house? Why these 4 students? Was one of them being targeted and the others were just there? Was it everyone? Was it random? Was it someone they knew? All these questions surrounding the simple fact.
So basically, if nobody knows about this, they probably live under a rock, but I'll go over this. These 4 college kids in Moscow, Idaho were just minding their own business one night, having a good old time. And apparently the suspect here, Brian Koberger, walked into their house at about 4 to 4:30 in the morning and unalived all 4 of these people. There were 2 survivors that we know of. So, I mean, just go to Moscow, Idaho whatever on YouTube and you can find all of the information about this. But they seated a grand jury and they indicted him. So this is what this is about.
That it was 4 victims in this case. Then we all headed out to Idaho and we got to see the house where this all took place. Brutal murder scene. Every description that we've heard, absolutely brutal what happened inside that house. And when you look at the scene, you're wondering, okay, you look at the house and there's different levels, different floors. And again, you go back to those questions. Okay, people on different floors. How did the killer get in there? Right? How did the killer get in there? Were they let in? Did they know? Was it someone, again, someone they knew? They knew how to get in there? Was it a stranger who had been stalking everyone? And again, the brutality of it, you know, the knife, the stabbing, and the blood we saw oozing out of the side of the house, all of that made you think.
And by the way, this may be triggering for some people.
This was not an ordinary, not that any murder is
most people
ordinary, but there was something else going on here. Something else going on. And then you look at, okay, well, so what exactly happened? What happened inside that house?
A murder.
Who was murdered first? There's 4 victims. Where was everyone when they were murdered? Was anyone awake? Was there anyone else in the house? Did anyone see anything? And little by little, some of these facts have come out. We haven't gotten the whole story. We haven't gotten a super clear picture.
So there is a gag order under this investigation here while the prosecution and defense. So you're not going to hear a lot of information, hopefully, because it's under a gag order. So a lot of the stuff you hear is probably not correct.
But we have some idea. And we're going to go through some of that tonight. And the question behind all of this, of course, now that the accused killer has been arrested and will be tried, the question is, can prosecutors prove it? Based upon that evidence, can they bring it inside a courtroom and prove this case? Whether it's DNA, whether it's surveillance video, whether it's cell phone pings, whether it's a prior conduct, something that someone saw, something that someone said, all of that. And is there any connection between this accused killer and any of the victims, whether the victims knew about the contact or not. All these questions hopefully get answered inside a courtroom in front of a jury. And prosecutors need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt to get that conviction. So tonight we're going to focus in on the scene of this murder to try to delve into some of those questions to see just how strong will this case be. And the reason we're doing this is because that preliminary hearing that was supposed to happen in public, where you would learn more of the evidence and witnesses would testify and be cross-examined, is not going to happen because the grand jury has indicted. And now we know that case will go to trial unless this defendant just pleads guilty to the charges, which we doubt. We doubt at this time. So Chanley Painter tonight takes us back to the scene of the crime, the investigation, to get a little more information about what we know about this accused killer the night of the murders.
The probable cause affidavit in the case against the accused killer of 4 University of Idaho students pieces together the movements of the suspect vehicle and coordinating cell phone location data beginning in the early morning hours of November 13th. At 2:42 a.m., the affidavit alleges that Brian Koberger's phone places him likely at his apartment on the WSU campus where he was a PhD student studying.
So this guy is just a total whatever. And he's been going to school, pretty smart, about forensics
and teaching criminology. At 2:44 a.m., Koberger's vehicle and cell phone are on the move. Police say his white Hyundai Elantra is spotted on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Nevada Street at Stadium Way. According to the affidavit, it was here in this area of the WSU campus where surveillance video and Koberger's cell phone placed him here around 2:47 a.m. According to the affidavit, he spent several minutes in this area where he allegedly turned off his cell phone before heading out of town toward Moscow, Idaho. By 2:53 a.m., Koberger's white Hyundai Elantra is observed heading in the direction of Moscow, Idaho. At 3:26 a.m., the affidavit then places Koberger's vehicle, now in the town of Moscow, in this residential neighborhood on Indian Hills Drive. This happens to be a road directly overlooking the Moscow Police Department. The Elantra is picked up on surveillance video moving west past the 700 block of Indian Hills. At 3:28 a.m., video shows the vehicle on Steiner Avenue at Highway 95 as it made its way towards the King Road neighborhood where the victims lived. Then from 3:29 a.m. to 4:20 a.m., the suspect vehicle, the white Hyundai Elantra, is observed multiple times on video passing by 1122 King Road during the alleged time of the murders before being seen on video speeding away on Walenta Drive. The probable cause affidavit states that the car likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Conestoga Drive, a road that eventually leads to Pullman, Washington.
So let's why? Just lost my computer. Yeah.
About 2 hours after.
Okay, we're back. trying to find a good overview of the map. I guess I can let this play while I do that.
After he allegedly turned off his cell phone, police say Koberger turned it back on here near Blaine, Idaho. It's about 10 to 15 minutes south of Moscow, a rural community off Highway 95, and it has its own cell tower. According to the affidavit, from 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m., Koberger's phone movements show him allegedly moving south towards Genesee, Idaho, and west towards Uniontown, Washington. Koberger may have taken a well-known back road called Thorn Creek Road at this point in his route towards his apartment. These are all very isolated roads, but Thorn Creek Road is known to be even more desolate. Police allege Koberger eventually made his drive back into Pullman, Washington from the quiet road of Johnson, where his vehicle was picked up on this security camera, the first time a camera captured his Hyundai after the murders were committed. By 5:30 a.m., police tracked the movements of Koberger's cell phone and vehicle back to his apartment.
All right, we're going to take.
So that's pretty good there. That's but I think that the problem here is I don't know if this is going to be such a cut and dry case here. I've been following Idaho since the beginning. But I wanted to bring this here. So this is the map, timeline map anyways. So these are the timelines when they got to their residence, what they were doing before. These two, they were at the grub truck. So these are the timelines. This is where Moscow is. These are the four individuals here. And, some have assumed that maybe he had a passion for one of these girls here. This case has brought on a whole new meaning of psychotic people that cover these things, but it's just awful that these people had to die. But in my opinion, it's no mystery that this is the guy that did it. Problem is prosecuting this guy. So
We have two views here, the front view of the home and the side.
So this is the house. We got the front view. So there's the door. There's an apartment down here or a room down here. And this is a side angle looking this way. It's an odd house. Obviously, some of this was added on. There's the deck. The biggest question I have is the timeline with the DoorDash driver. But anyway.
Side view of the home. That's this bottom level. Inside now, we're going to take you inside that bottom level. You can see you've got the front door. You've got one bedroom on one side, another bedroom on the other. The stairs that go upstairs. Let me start, Erica Morse. Bethany, one of the roommates, who the defense wants to speak to and says may have exculpatory evidence, is in one of these bedrooms. What are your thoughts about what, if anything, that happened there on that first floor?
It's hard to tell, Vinny. This probable cause affidavit makes no sense in terms of why walk past that first floor up to that second floor. It just does. I don't understand it. I would understand that the defense would have some questions about this, because you would assume that everybody in that house would not have made it out alive. And so my problem in this affidavit is missing or skipping that bottom floor and going up to that second floor to begin this terror.
Emily, there was also a DoorDash delivery that we've heard about. And I'm wondering, does the DoorDash go to that door? What else is going on down there in that bottom level? What are your thoughts about what's happening down there? And what, if anything, that the roommate Bethany may be able to add to this to tell the jury and let them know what, if anything, she knows about what happened that night, that morning?
I think they're going to be really interested in timeline of when DoorDash got there, which door DoorDash came to, and if DoorDash getting there woke up Bethany, when she was home, when she went to bed, and that kind of information, because we don't know if the house was entered on the bottom floor or entered up above on the second floor, which exits outside to that back hill. So we don't know where the house was entered, but they're absolutely going to want to know what this roommate heard and when, and kind of start to put together that timeline a little bit more with DoorDash getting there. And that's going to all be tracked by the DoorDash app pretty closely.
Yeah, that is a significant part of the timeline because it's so close in time. Let's move up to that second floor. So let's take a look at the exterior of the house, the middle level, the second level. You look at it from where the car's parked, it is the second level. You need to go up the stairs if you enter through the door with the wreath in that basement. But as Emily pointed out, if you climb up the hill on the side of the road, there's a sliding door entrance or exit that goes into the kitchen. Now, let's take a look at the floor plans of this main floor. There's, you see.
So this is important. So that's the patio, the second floor.
See where the patio is on the top right-hand side. You see where the kitchen is. That's, sliding door through the kitchen. And then on one side you have Dylan, and then on the other side you have Ethan and Xana. And Dylan, we know, Erica, is someone who apparently saw or allegedly saw the killer from her doorway. Significant. This, to me, there's so much happening here. And Ethan and Xana obviously are murdered on that main level. What are your thoughts, Erica, about what happened or allegedly saw?
So in my opinion, it depends on who's awake. Because if I'm a killer, which I'm not, and somebody's awake waiting for, you can't tell me that somebody ordered DoorDash, ate DoorDash in 10 minutes, and then went right to sleep. So somebody was awake down here. So, in my opinion, these two are attacked first. He then goes upstairs to take care of that. And then back downstairs and finishes Zen off. That's my opinion.
The killer from her doorway. Significant. This, to me, there's so much happening here. And Ethan and Xana obviously are murdered on that main level. What are your thoughts, Erica, about what happened there on that main level?
And let's recall, Vinny, she didn't open that door once. She opened that door twice because she heard something. There was a statement, I'm going to help you. And then she kind of opened that door and then she heard something else and opened it again. And that's when she saw this man in black. So I still, and I said this a few months ago, I really think that she was groggy. I think she, thought it was somebody else in the house. We did know that people were moving around. And I'm glad that Emily mentioned that part about the second floor because, with all of these rental services and real estate services, When you Google that address, floor plans are available online, virtual tours are available online. And we know that Brian was at that house at least 12 times, according to those cell phone pings, prior to this gruesome set of murders. And as a criminology student, I think he would have studied that floor plan and just studied that entire floor plan extensively, because I don't think he wanted any surprises. I think he wanted to be in complete control of how things went down.
Emily Baker, your thoughts about that sliding door? We saw during the investigation, they were looking for fingerprints. There was dust. A lot of focus on that area.
And we've also seen video of when the police came for a noise complaint before these murders and came up to that sliding door. But I have to wonder, not just as it was pointed out, do you have these rental agreements and you can find stuff online, but the roommates were on TikTok. You can see what they're doing inside their homes based on their own social media posts. So how much Kohberger might have known about the inside of this property might be from the victims and their friends posting from inside the home. And that's all going to be gotten in the search warrants that we've seen for TikTok and other social media apps. But it's very interesting to me that there were 2 victims killed on this floor and 1 surviving. And it leaves more questions than answers as to why that is. Because after you kill 4 people in a house, how is that surviving roommate still in that bedroom on that floor?
Again, it doesn't make sense. And what order were the murders taking place? Did the killer start on the 3rd floor, then come down? Did he start on that 2nd floor and go up? Let's take a look at that 3rd floor. We'll look at the exterior first of the 3rd floor. And from the front, it's sort of set. You can see it's set back as you look at the side.
Well, use the ladder.
It has sliding doors, but you'd have to be Spider-Man to enter that way because there is no stairwell from the outside that goes up to that deck. The room associated with that deck was the empty room because Maddie and Kaylee were found in the same room. And you can see where the deck is in the top right part off of bedroom number 2, but it's bedroom number 1 where Maddie and Kaylee were found dead. And you can see where the stairs are right in the middle. Emily, what are your thoughts about the order of this? Is there anything that would indicate one way or the other based upon all the evidence that we've seen and heard?
Well, unfortunately, Vinny, we haven't seen and heard a lot, and I was really hoping we would see more in the preliminary hearing. But what you mentioned earlier is how horrific of a crime scene this is, and I can only imagine there will be quite a lot of footprints through this home that will show at least somewhat of an order of whether footprints were seen only going down the stairs from the top floor after those killings, or whether you have footprints going up and down the stairs. And those are the things investigators are going to look for to try to put together a timeline on this, because the killings happened in such quick order that you're not going to get that timeline from the victims themselves. You're going to have to look at all of the other surrounding evidence. And I think that DoorDash delivery will help give a timeline on it, and then look to the footprints and the other blood evidence in the home.
Yeah, to me, the timing of the DoorDash guy is person. I don't know about the guy. Pretty consequential here. It's obvious.
All right, Emily D. Baker, Erica Morse, we're out of time for tonight, but obviously we are going to stay on this story and have you on time and time again for this and everything else that we're covering. Appreciate your time. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the accused killer before the murder speaking to police and after the murders speaking to police and evaluate, is there any difference? Plus, coming up next hour.
In Kern County, California, the Cal City toddlers murder case coming to a close. Little Orrin and Orson West missing since 2020, and now their adoptive parents on trial for double murder.
Unbelievable.
All the evidence is in, and the arguments have been made, and it's time to hear from
Who would do that, honestly?
the jury.
If you feel that abiding conviction, it's because there is reasonable doubt.
A disgraced lawyer accused of a disturbing murder.
The victim, his own mother.
Having been on the
intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, then you're on the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep.
So this is
It's really quite amazing how much.
so this is he got stopped here. He's just trying to get out of it. I guess there's definitely a problem with him. He's
8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
I'm not trying to diagnose people, but this guy here is in it for the kick, for sure.
Hello, I am Officer Langus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You were in the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck
Technically, you're not supposed to be an idiot.
in the intersection, and then you're on the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep.
It's really quite amazing how much interaction with police the accused killer in the Idaho students case had. That was some video about a month before the murders. And what I want to do is take a look at his interaction with police before the murders and after the murders with our guest joining me in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist. No. Joining us in Alexandria, Virginia, body language expert, New York Times bestselling author of You Can't Lie to Me. That is Janine Driver. Janine, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Vinny.
All right, so we're going to do the before. We've got a couple clips before, then one clip after. This, again, is the accused killer. And, again, one of the stories that and prosecutors are saying, he was in the area many times, sort of inferring that they believe he was, planning this thing out a little bit. So let's take a look first. This is a month before, stopped by the Washington State University police.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck like in their intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done? Just
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington. So just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation. And then then you're running a red light. So it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go. Because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting and then turns and then you're blocking.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. And not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light. So, or you're going to be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly.
Well, guess what, pal? You're not in
Pennsylvania.
Okay, so.
Well, like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah. 1 second.
Okay, Janine.
I learned a long time ago never to argue with a cop, especially a female cop, okay? Because they don't like you anyways.
What did you see? What did you hear?
Now, to the everyday person, you might see this and say, hey, this is normal. This is how I would respond, possibly trying to build rapport to get out of a ticket and ask a lot of questions. There's a couple things here that we see in this clip, and I think we're going to carry one of them over to the next clip. One is a tongue protrusion, and I think we'll talk about it again in the next clip. He stuck his tongue out briefly. We'll talk about that. Just hang tight. But before that, when he talks about someone had stopped in front of him, he does this little micro expression, Vinny, and you at home, where his upper lip comes up, and he
The only The only thing body language experts are good for is telling you what happens afterwards. They're never going to ever tell you anything that happened before.
He flashes his teeth. And this is something we saw
I have absolutely no faith in body language experts, but
Caitlin do on the stand, going back old school here with O.J. Simpson, when Marsha Clark was asking questions, hey, isn't it true that you've got this book deal or this some type of a deal? You're making money out of this case. And he does this snarl. When the upper lip
did she just do a little bit of cocaine before she did
comes
this?
up
I'm not
and we see
sure.
the teeth like this is a combination between anger and disgust, and that equals scorn. So, and we have this tiny little sneak peek of scorn, which is very intriguing to what's to come a month later. The other thing I'd like to talk about here is his eyes open wide. Look right here. You're seeing the three whites, we call it in law enforcement, the inner part of the eye, the outer part, and underneath. If we look at Vinny's eyes.
So what I'm saying is if this person talking would have seen this guy before all of this stuff happened, would she have been able to say, this guy's a murderer and you need to get him off the street? I don't think so.
Right now in mine, you'll notice you don't see three whites of our eyes. This happens right here when we're under stress. You were just pulled over for a ticket. Makes sense, right? Fear or surprise. It usually indicates something is wrong. Again, pulled over for a ticket, probably scouting out the area here on the college campus. O.J. Simpson, going back to him, he did this in the civil case when he was shown a picture of himself wearing Bruno Megli shoes walking on a football field. When in the criminal case, he said he never owned those ugly shoes. Yet they all of a sudden show, according to him, he called them ugly and with a swear word that I won't say here. And all of a sudden, the civil case, they're showing him a picture. You see OJ, look at the picture and look up and you see those three whites. This is, something is wrong. I just got busted. Again, it could make sense for the ticket, but it hangs out. Look at this. This is hanging out the entire conversation, the three whites. He knows there's a problem here and trying to build that rapport to get out of it.
Okay, Janine, what we're going to do now, that was more of the video. We're going to go to the after one now. This is a video of a traffic stop after the murders. And interested to see if you notice any difference in the way he is, in what you see and what you hear. So let's watch.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See his right.
So I remember this early on when this happened. They were under the assumption that they were following this guy, and they pulled him over to see if he who he was, and basically tailing this guy. I'm not sure if that's true.
Right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back.
Because he was stopped twice. I've never been pulled over for tailgating.
Into that van, pulled you over for tailgating.
Been pulled over for a lot of other things, but not tailgating.
Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're scanning early.
What's WSU?
University, basically. They were listening to this incident that was occurred in the shooting incident. That is SWAT team and everything.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh,
we're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Good driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
there was a man shooting and everything. We don't know if it's a man.
Where?
This was
Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
Oh.
He went to his PhD.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened about an hour and a half ago. We're still wrapping it up for investigating.
Did you see that? I want to show that again because that's really the way he was looking at his dad. I think that's So this is his dad. They're driving back from Idaho. I think this was planned, but I want to show this.
Still wrapping it up.
See that look? You're talking too much. Shut up.
Investigating. I would not shoot his two shoes because they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And they
Supposedly, this guy just murdered 4 people. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but you can see here, I mean, in my opinion, the guy looks like, oh my God, shut the hell up. We're talking about
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you.
Okay, I still can't get over the fact that when he's asked where you're going, we're going to get some Thai food. You've got, I think he's got Washington State plates at this point. He's from Pennsylvania and he's in Indiana. Okay, that aside, Janine, what'd you see? What'd you hear?
All right, let's start with what I heard this time. So we make sure we get it in because I have the gift of gab, as you know. The producers usually tell me to wrap it up. Basically, these LY words, be very careful of those. Basically, we don't give raises the first year. That indicates sometimes you make an exception and you do give raises. I want to be the exception. I call these the wiggle words, usually, typically, normally. And he says, basically, this is what we did. That indicates to me this LY particular here, this adverb, that there's something else he was doing. He uses the word actually 3 times. Actually, Vinny compares 2 different things. Let me do a quick test with you, Vinny. Did you buy the red car or the blue truck? Actually, I bought the red car. What are the other thing I'm comparing it to? Did you buy the red car or the blue truck?
Blue car. There's 2 choices.
Right. So this actually, I mean, is comparing 2 things. You buy the red car, the blue truck. I bought the red car. Actually, I bought the red car as opposed to the blue truck. When people throw in this actually where it doesn't belong, it's indicating he was really someplace else. Actually, what we were just doing was this. No, that's not what you were doing because we don't know. He's comparing it to something we don't know. If I was in law enforcement still, I would teach this officer to ask as opposed to what, because he threw in that actually. Not only did he do it once, Vinny, and you at home, he said it 3 times. Normally, we can think there's an LY there. Normally, we can figure out what it is. Did you have fun at the party? Actually, I had a good time. Maybe they thought they weren't going to have a good time. But here, this is very suspicious. Now let's talk about body language. He's not breathing. Look at him. It's as if no air is coming into him. I'm even watching his throat. And this happens a lot with deception and high stress. People forget to breathe. We do see the 3 whites of the eyes right here. And he does this move that I did see earlier and didn't get to talk about, which is this tongue protrusion. This tongue out, this jutting of the tongue. This is someone's got caught and they made a mistake or getting away with something or deep concentration. If you've ever threaded a needle, imagine threading a needle. You've got the eye of the needle in front of you. You've got the thread. You stick out your tongue. So we've got this deep concentration, or he thinks he's getting away with something, or he just got caught. A lot happening right here. The fact he's not even breathing and he's so stiff. Now looking away, I throw that away because he's on a busy road here. The everyday person is going to look to make sure that they're safe. So that behavior I'm going to ignore. But this lack of breathing, the wrinkled in the forehead right here is high stress. We didn't even see it in the first time, but we're seeing it here. And then, of course, this tongue protrusion. And the big one for me, the smoking gun, is the word actually. I wrote it down and did my little 3 tick marks. This is huge. And these LY words, if you go back to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, she loved the LY word, right? So be careful of listening to people closely, what they're saying. If someone says, typically we can't give raises in the first year, you might be able to get yourself a raise. My name's Janine. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
All right. Actually, we have to go to a break right now, Janine. So
I love you.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.
And your hair is so great. I'm loving what's happening with this hair tonight. I love it.
All right. I just got a haircut. How about that?
It looks good. It's dapper.
There
I
we
knew
go.
something was going on.
All right. Janine Driver, ladies and gentlemen.
4 people got killed. Let's laugh about it. Okay. She kind of bothered me a little. All right. So that's the end of that. That's the Kohlberger thing. Didn't get to what I wanted to in there, but oh well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go to one more thing I want to do before we get out of here is let's go to the Delphi situation going on. I don't know if anybody knows about the Delphi case, but So back in 2017, February of 2017, on the 13th, two kids were walking across the bridge and they got unalived. So they got a suspect in custody as of October. But there still seems to be this underlying theme here that this guy here is somehow involved in this case. He's a essayer of young girls. And he went to, he's been basically in jail for a long time. And let me see if I can find it this way here. And a couple months ago, he changed his plea to guilty. So he had a sentencing hearing yesterday, and he's withdrawn his plea. So we'll do that. We'll go to this one here. So this guy's facing, let me share the screen here. I don't want that. Apparently this guy was catfishing under a fake account, Anthony Schatz. And he supposedly talked to Libby before they got unalived. If any of you know about the Delphi murders, you can go and check that out. But he was going to plead guilty and get sentenced the other day, and he's withdrawn his plea. So let's go over that. This guy's a piece of crap.
Angels have toilet paper in.
After we learn about toilet paper.
Kegan Kline is back in jail after a delay in his sentencing hearing on child porn charges.
We were at the courthouse in Miami County this morning. As officers there, you can see, were escorting Kline out of the courtroom. That hearing took an unexpected turn. New tonight, the Miami County Prosecutor's Office is responding to the situation, saying they, quote, vehemently objected to the continuance, but they went on to say they do respect the court's decision. Kline, as you likely remember, was once questioned.
So in my opinion, I don't think this guy has anything to do with the actual crime itself. Whether he has something to do with Rich and Allen meeting the girls at the bridge, I just don't think so. I just don't see that happen. But most people do. So
About the Delphi murders, but these charges aren't related to the case against him right now.
Right.
Our Rich and I breaks down the latest developments from Miami County tonight.
He hasn't been charged in the murders at all. But he is being charged for child pornography and exploitation and possession. So he's literally a horrible piece of crap, and he deserves to be in jail for the rest of his life, period.
Kegan Kline says there is some evidence he has not had a chance to review. His attorney says that Kline may even want to withdraw his guilty plea based on that evidence. Kline left Miami Circuit Court after his attorney asked for and the judge granted a continuance of Kline's sentencing. Kline pleaded guilty last month to 25 charges, including child solicitation, child exploitation, possession of child pornography, synthetic identity deception, and obstruction of justice. Kline admits to having sexually explicit photos of girls under age 18, some under 12 years old, on several of his electronic devices. The prosecution argued strongly against the sentencing delay. They said all the evidence has been available to Klein and there's nothing new he has not had time to review.
No comment today, guys. Thank you.
The prosecution would not comment to the media, but said in the courtroom that Klein just didn't want to face
They
the
are
music
pissed.
and was trying to drag things out.
They are really getting upset with this guy.
Klein was arrested in 2020. His home in Peru was raided 11 days after the Delphi murders in 2017. He admitted creating the Anthony Schatz catfish social media profile that communicated with Libby German shortly before her death. Police never named Klein as a suspect in the Delphi murders. As far as we know, none of his admitted crimes involved Libby German or Abby Williams. Klein's sentencing might have revealed if he provided any information that led to the arrest of Richard Allen for the murders. Klein's attorney has until next Friday to file any new motions, including intent to withdraw a guilty plea. Klein's next court hearing is June 1st. In Peru, Rich Nye, 13 News.
So there you go. That's that. So he's, I guess, earlier today, somebody withdrew something. I think his lawyer is at it with him. I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's that. He's delayed his trial again, and he's going to be, I think he has till a few days to withdraw or not, and they're going to reconvene in a couple months to do this all over again. But I would not doubt if this thing goes another year or so. So that's the wonderful laws we have in this country. It's fantastic. The guys, you know he's guilty. You just know he's guilty, and he's just playing the system here, playing the system. So what a piece of crap. So that's that. So we gonna get out of here. Whoever joined, thank you. Whoever liked and subscribed, thank you for all the views from the other videos. I really appreciate that. If you could, like and subscribe, that'd be great. You don't have to. Where am I? Here. Nope. So what we're going to do now is get out of here. I'm going to just get rid of these things here and do my outro. Let me know if you like this too. I can change it up a little bit. So have a good night, everybody. Thank you.